Peace. When will you ever peace, wild wood dove, shy wings shut, you're round me roaming end, and under be my boughs? When, peace will you, peace? I'll not play hypocrite to own my heart. I yield. You do come sometimes, but that piecemeal peace is poor peace. What pure peace allows alarms of war, the daunting wars, the death of it. Oh, surely reaving peace, my Lord should leave in lieu some good. And so he does leave patience exquisite, that plumes to peace thereafter. And when peace here does house, he comes with work to do. He does not come to coo. He comes to brood and sit. Okay, this poem, a short title piece like Patience, speaks of a condition, and yet he is able to work the workings of God into his presentation here. So at first reading, it's not clear. And if we look again and start to reconstruct some of his sentences that he uses, his strange work in this poem, that we can unlock some of the meaning. So let's look at the first question. First two lines is a question. And if we rearrange the wording there, he addresses the wood dove, okay, so a dove that flies into the woods and hides there and then returns from time to time. And he is addressing that metaphorically in the sense of that dove represents peace. Okay, so we have imagery in the Bible of the Holy Spirit, being a dove and hovering over Jesus. And, that image came up in a couple of the other poems. So here, if we look at this first question, the sentence reads, Peace, wild wood dove. When will you ever around me, shut your shy wings instead of roaming in and out of the woods, and be my support under the bough? Okay, I'll sit, and you will be my peaceful comforter. So that's what that first question is. It's a question of when will God send his peace, metaphorically here described as a dove, and one that it flits in and out of the woods, shy wings shut, okay, and then around him he hopes, around me, shut your wings, roaming, and end your roaming. So that's thrown in there too. So peace, when will you end your roaming, and around me, shutter me in your wings as a support under me, as a bough of a tree would support me if I were sitting on the bough. Okay, so that's a lot of work in there in those first two lines. And if you're not familiar with Hopkins and you read that, you'd say, where are we going with this? What is it all about? Okay, so that's the meaning of the first two lines. And then he says, he pleads, when peace? When will you peace? Notice how many times he repeats the word, the noun peace, 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 when. So it's, a cry from the wilderness. I'll not play hypocrite, he says, okay, to own my heart. So if I were to try to be deceptive with you, my heart would not be still. I'd feel it in my heart that I'm not being true to myself. So I'll not play hypocrite, because, occasionally you do come. I yield. I give you that. I yield. You do come sometimes, but that kind of peace is not lasting. Piecemeal means, a little bit at a time, here and there, not extended and not lasting. So that kind of peace, piecemeal peace, is poor peace. What pure peace allows. So this is like being sarcastic here. If you call that peace, what kind of peace allows war? What kind of peace allows apprehension and fear and the death of it? So I wouldn't call that peace if you do. You know what I mean? So that's what he says in the first octave here. It's actually 6 lines so far. And then he goes on to say, surely reaving peace, my Lord should leave in lieu some good. So reaving, the short, lasting peace that does not give me a sense of lasting security, my Lord should leave in its place something good. Not, as good as peace would be if I had that, but at least something that would give me some sense of hope or something like that. And then he admits, and so he does. He leaves patience exquisite. That's what he leaves with me instead of the peace I ask for. And that patience exquisite, we talked about patience in the other poem, how that brings grace, and grace leads to peace, all right? So patience exquisite, that plumes, now remember we're talking about a bird, the imagery, and plumes, his feathers open up to peace thereafter. So from patience, we can get peace, okay? And when peace here does house, he comes with work to do. Now remember, again, the imagery of the bird, and then when he builds the house, the birdhouse, the nest, okay, he comes with work to do. He does not come to coo, sit there cooing, making noise. He comes to brood and to sit. So a brooding bird sits over its eggs, okay, in hopes to hatch them so newborn chicks are born. So that thread of imagery works its way from the previous imagery of the patience building into a feeling of peace. So it requires work on our part, the patience that he leaves with us. And that's what we saw in the poem entitled Patience, that with patience, we acquire a new lifestyle, and it gives us, it strengthens us to deal with our traversities in life, okay? So that is almost like the image in the other poem, when something catch fire, okay? In that poem, he says, grace keeps all our goings. So that's what he's talking about here, too. Same idea that it allows us to go on, patience does, and it builds within us a new sense of character, okay? It tests our mettle, and we grow stronger, and then that will be ultimately peace, okay? Peace thereafter, okay? So let me read through the little analysis I have. This poem is one of Hopkins' so-called curtail sonnets, which resembles the true sonnet form, an octave containing 8 lines in a sestet of 6, but it differs in that it has 6 lines in the octave and only 4 in the sestet with a half-line tailpiece. There still exists a contrast, a focus or viewpoint between the two parts, such as a question and a reply or a change of tone or tension. Hopkins begins with an apostrophe. All right, that means you're addressing someone. Direct address, addressing peace as an elusive, capricious wood dove, often secluding itself within the woods with its wings shut, but occasionally visiting him for only short periods of time. The speaker repeatedly questions peace, represented as a dove, asking when it will cease skirting the edges of the universe and settle down with its wings wrapped around him to provide a haven. Under be my bough, a wonderful image of stability and security as depicted by the bough. Okay. The third line sounds like a lament as he plaintively implores, "Win, peace, win, peace, will you peace?" There exists a play on the repetition of the word peace, whereby the second piece might also be read as a verb, win peace. In other words, when is this going to happen? Bring it about peace. This repetition of his cry, using both the name and his question, evokes emotions such as that. It sounds almost like a wail. We hear the question, when, 3 times, as well as his addressing the wood dove by name 3 times. This word choice and structure heightens the pathos and suggests a feeling of helplessness, even a feeling of abandonment on the part of the speaker, and it almost, evokes the Psalm, "O Lord, hear my prayer, let my cry come unto you," or "out of the depths I cry unto you, O Lord." All of those psalms that do the same, have the same message. The next line begins with a concession. He says, "I yield that you do come sometimes," but the speaker argues that the sometimes peace is shallow or a poor peace. How can one call threats of war, daunting war itself, and death, not only of fellow men, but death of peace itself, how can one call that peace? Okay, so you could, conjure up images of the Gaza Strip. Those people have been dealing with war year after year after year after year, and it just does not get better. It just gets worse. And when will we get peace? So Hopkins, on a psychological level, dealt with inner turmoil, strife, and perhaps this poem is addressing that too, that argument. When am I going to have peace of mind? Okay. So the Curtos octave sets a good argument. Hopkins' use of the dove as a symbol representing his yearning for an everlasting peace is quite fitting, for the dove, as a religious sense, is often associated with the image of the Holy Spirit descending over Jesus with the words, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased," like the flames of fire descending on the apostles at Pentecost. So you have that imagery through the bird, all right? But Hopkins is not representing that association here, anyway. His argument is that the peace he has experienced has always been short-lived, all right, very temporal, kind of peace. And his admission that this kind of peace is a poor peace, not a pure peace. His choice of piecemeal suggests a small or partial portion over an extended period of time. So that's what he's implying here. Hopkins intimates that this temporal, elusive peace is a consequence of the fall of man in the garden. Okay, that's why we don't have lasting peace in this temporal life. And, that came up in spring and fall when Margaret couldn't understand why she was grieving over the falling of the leaves and the change of season. But it had to do more with, the fall of man and man's condition in sin and losing all of the things that we had when we were in the Garden of Eden. So the answer was the things pertaining to man are not lasting, both in that poem and in here. Okay, peace does not last. The speaker here experiences a reaving peace, one which does not last. There's a poem that Emily Dickinson wrote called "The Nearest Dream Recedes," carries this message as well, the same idea, where a child is chasing a butterfly, and the more he chases it, the thing lures him. He's, like peace. He tries to catch it, okay? The heaven we catch, like the June bee, not the butterfly, the June bee, before the schoolboy, invites the race. It stoops to an easy clover. Okay, you could say a butterfly as well. It dips, it evades, it teases, it deploys, and then, to the child's dismay, it rises to the royal clouds by lifting its light boat, its pinnace, heedless of the boy staring bewildered at the mocking sky. So here's the bee, and the schoolboy thinks it can catch the bee, and the bee invites the race, stoops to an easy clover, dips, evades, teases, deploys, then to the royal clouds lifts his light pinnace, and heedless of the boy staring bewildered at the mocking sky. So that would be a metaphor there of peace in a way too. It's elusive, cannot catch it. So the turn, line 7 in this poem, not Emily Dickinson's and Hopkins' poem, suggests a change from an unsettling or disturbing tone to one of more rationality, almost like an adult, deliberating or musing on what it's all about. It sounds as though the speaker is offering insight into his own form of questioning. He reasons well that God does not offer this lasting peace to us in this life. In its place, however, he offers us a counter gift of patience exquisite, which may be a grace or a gift. However, it is not inert. In other words, it's here to grow, to go into action. It's not going to coo, on the branch or in its nest. It's not there to coo, C-O-O. It's not inert. The catch here is that man must work with this gift, for patience comes with work to do, we are told. At baptism, we are born into the life of Christ, and God provides us with the sacraments and other means to obtain salvation, to gain eternal peace with Him in heaven. But we must embrace our commitment to work here on earth. It's man's will, his will, not his intellect, his will, that determines his choice of action. And that choice defines how his life is, his state in life, whether he chooses to live a good life or not a good life, In the Just Me and Justices in Kingfishers Catch Fire, that all his goings are graces. So through the will, he obtains grace for salvation. And this patience demands, among other things, that we conform our lives to God's holy will and love one another. And this is not always easy, loving one another. Sometimes it's a very difficult charge for us, okay? And that word charge comes up, and the world is charged with the grandeur of God. So it's something that we must do. Everything in nature is charged with God. All right. The reward is one which plumes to peace thereafter, the pure peace sought in the octave. There is much to be said about. So in this paragraph here, I'm talking about his craftsmanship in the poem, but I like to focus more on the meaning of the poem. The craftsmanship is there for you to analyze, the structure, the sonnet, and the alliteration, and all of the poetical devices he uses. So it's there, all right. And the only thing I'll say is the word peace, for example, is mentioned no less than 10 times, including play on words and his use of piecemeal, play on words. And his use of personification is nothing short of remarkable, with the dove enclosing its wings around the speaker, offering piecemeal comfort, building its house, bringing chores with work to do, and coming to brood and sit, not to coo, So there's work to be done. And it will, this brooding and sitting will bring about a new reality, the newborn chicks. Well, same thing with good hard work, with patience, which God gives us in its place. A new reality will be born, and that will be, it keeps all our goings graces, as in that other poem. The last 3 lines explaining the dove's mission carries a very beautiful imagery of a bird building its house. When peace here does house, the image of brooding and hatching its eggs furthers the concept of patience and reward, which we also found in the wind hover. Sheer plod makes plowed down Cillian shine, in the last line there, that it is through the everyday effort we make day after day after day after day of our lives with the graces that God sends us that makes our lives shine too. And that would be when he talks about the plume, okay? Things suddenly become different. So I'll read the poem through again, and with those thoughts in mind, perhaps there'll be more meaning or better understanding. So it begins, when will you ever peace, wild wood dove, shy wings shut, you're round me roaming end, and under be my boughs. When, peace, will you, peace? I'll not play hypocrite to own my heart. I yield you do come sometimes, but that piecemeal peace is poor peace. What pure peace allows alarms of war, the daunting war, the death of it? Oh, surely, grieving peace, my Lord should leave and lose some good, and so he does, leave patience exquisite, that plumes to peace thereafter. And when peace here does house, he comes with work to do. He does not come to coo, he comes to brood and sit.